Oh. Yeah. Yep. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, you can hear me?
Yeah. Michael.
We are going to get started in just a second. Sorry, it's taking us a minute to get things going here. Let's see. Got quite the collection of cords here. Is it not? There it goes. All right. There we go. There we go. Let's produce that. All right. Elizabeth, are you ready?
Yep.
Can you guys hear me, or do you want me to use the mic? Yeah? Okay. Oh. Well, thank you everybody for joining us for our March Lunch and Learn, finally back in person. Yeah, it's been a minute since we've seen your bright, smiling faces. So excited to see you again, and excited to get back into the swing of things. So welcome to Green Spaces. For anybody that we don't already know, I'm Michael Walton. I'm the executive director here at Green Spaces. We've got a really great presentation today. Elizabeth Hammett with EPB is going to be talking about smart grid and the future of electric vehicles. Oh, that's not advancing for me. There we go. Okay. So our mission here at Green Spaces is advancing the sustainability of living, working, and building in Chattanooga and the surrounding region. And we couldn't do that without your support, right? The nature of a nonprofit is that this is your work. And we're only here because you let us be here. So thank you. We've been working for the last couple years on an integrated community sustainability plan with the city of Chattanooga. We're still working with them. They're in the process of crafting that into policy that they can actually take to city council. So we hope to have more news about that once the city has something to share. Our Empower program has recently expanded to doing workshops that teach low cost and no cost ways for people to lower their electric bills in 8 counties, plus the same Empower neighborhoods that we've been working on in the city of Chattanooga since 2014. But now we're in Marion, Sequatchie, Bledsoe, Grundy, Ray, Meigs, McMinn, and Polk counties doing those same workshops for people that experience extremely high utility burden. So that is, they spend a large percentage of their income on their energy bills. Our Green Leader program is a professional certificate offered through UTC. If you yourself or if anybody you know is interested in becoming a green leader in your business or organization, this is a great way to start that journey. It will provide a sort of like baseline, sort of foundational knowledge about different environmental systems and challenges, and then also teach you how to manage change within your organization. And a special thanks to Elizabeth, who actually helped us develop the idea for Green Leader and part of the curriculum for that. Our Green Light program is a green business certification. So for local businesses that want to take steps in the direction of reducing their environmental impact, this is a great way to do that with your business. Get excited for the Green Prix. It's coming up May 6th and 7th. Actually, we're going to do a whole lunch and learn just about the Green Prix in April. So stay tuned for that, but definitely put this on your calendars and plan to be there because it is going to be spectacular. Eco Field Day is coming up April 22nd. So get your corporate or organizational team or even group of friends together and come participate in some eco-themed field day activities in Miller Park. Again, this is sponsored by EPB, and we'll be right there on their front yard in Miller Park. And there will be an Earth Day celebration that afternoon from 2 p.m. to 7 p.m. So we'll have music, we'll have vendors, we'll have food trucks, and it'll be totally open to the public. Thank you so much to our founding partners. So Franklin Architects, we've got a couple visitors here, including Bob, and Compass Commissioning. These are two of our first members at Green Spaces that really helped Green Spaces keep going all these years. And then since then, we've had so many amazing members join. We just have a new member that joined today. Thank you very much. Can you stand up and say hi and introduce yourself? Yeah.
My name is Kermit Hubbard, small general contractor in Aaron, but a firm believer in green spaces or at least eco-friendly construction activities. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Kurt. And thanks for your membership. We have a lot of green level members that, again, make everything that we do at Green Spaces possible. So not only are there benefits like these lunch and learns and discounts to our events, but you're really making Chattanooga a more sustainable place to live. So thank you. We also have nonprofit members, so organizations, associations that share a mission that support this work. If you want to become a member, either as an individual or a business, that starts at $10 a month or $49 a month, and just reach out to me after we're done with this. And TJ, where did TJ go? There she is. So TJ manages our membership program. And so if you have any questions about the benefits, just talk to TJ. So with that, we're ready to get into our presentation. So what does the smart grid mean for resilience and sustainability in our community, and how will it support the low carbon tech of the future like EVs? So Elizabeth Hammett is the Director of Residential Energy and Environmental Solutions at EPB, where she develops and implements environmental stewardship and community programs and residential energy products. In addition to that, Elizabeth has been a longtime supporter of Green Spaces. Both she and Bob Franklin were on the board when I started back in 2014. And Elizabeth also helped start the Sustainability Professionals of Greater Chattanooga and so many other initiatives. I can't even read them all, but thank you for being such a champion for sustainability, and we look forward to your presentation.
Thanks, Michael. Thank you. Man, it's so great to be here. It's so great to be in person with you guys. I'd like to take a second to just congratulate Green Spaces on doing all this amazing work in such challenging times. You know, we at EPB are so proud to support Green Spaces things like the Green Pre, Eco Field Days. You guys make so many awesome things possible, and we're just really glad to be one small part of it. So yeah, today I'm excited to talk to you about our smart grid at EPB. How many of you all here in the room have heard of our smart grid? Okay, a few. Great. So today we'll be covering some real basic high-level things about our smart grid, getting into a few more details about a recent certification we've had, and where we think the future of electric vehicles is going, and how we're going ahead and starting to prepare for that. And so with that, I was wondering how I was going to make this transition.
I got you.
Thank you, Michael.
Yeah. Stop share. PowerPoint. Where did yours go? There it is.
Thank you.
Now I gotta share it with Zoom.
Ah.
Share.
Yes, and I'd be remiss if I didn't say hello to everyone in Zoom land as
Yeah.
well, because this is a hybrid event.
Percent.
All right, we're live.
Okay.
Okay.
Maddie, can you see that on Zoom? Okay. Use slideshow. There we go. How's that? Cool.
Okay, great.
Continue.
Yes, thanks everyone for your patience. Can everyone hear me okay? All right, great, thank you. So just a quick overview of EPB. We started our journey as your publicly owned energy and communications provider in 1939, which makes EPB 83 years old. We were born with the mission to enhance the local quality of life and the economy. It was during the Depression era. And as part of the whole TVA Act, we were one small part of the attempt to reduce the depressed economy and poverty in this area. Today, we're reaching 170,000 homes and business, around 404,000 people. And we have a 9,000-mile fiber optic network and advanced smart grid. In our service territory, we are one of the largest publicly owned municipal utilities in the United States at 600 square miles. So there are really two sides of the house at EPB. We have our electric side and our fiber optic side. Both are enabled by our fiber optic smart grid. Smart meters, you may have heard about those. We have those on every premise in our service territories. They are ubiquitous. We also have 12,000 automated switches, which is one of the largest concentrations in the world on a grid. Our outage reductions have reached 55%, and it saves our customers about $55 million annually. And one thing that really fits our public service mission is that our smart grid benefits all customers. We built the smart grid to every single home in our service territory, regardless of how rural they were, how far away they were from those dense urban areas. And so everyone is included in the benefits of the smart grid and the gig network. So many people may not realize that the fiber optic infrastructure of the smart grid also enables our gigabit internet. So we were the first entity in the United States to offer a gig, and now we offer 10 gigs. Our three products are 300 megabits per second, 1 gig, and 10 gigs. We have 125,000 fiber subscribers. That includes residential and commercial. And we are pretty excited that we have about 70% of the residential market share. So does anyone have any questions? I'll pause here. Okay, great. Well, that's a great question. Well, we do like to provide some competition. So Comcast has some, as well as Charter, and then some smaller folks. Yeah, or no, AT&T. Excuse me. AT&T has a very small UVerse print. Yeah. So what do these two networks? What do they really provide to our community? A third-party study found around 2.7 billion in community impact over our first 10 years. So again, that's a pretty substantial number. And if we break it down, we did just discuss that the smart grid saves customers up to $55 million per year. And these are things, that are really everything from being inconvenient when you lose electricity, like say all the spoilage in your refrigerator, to things on a larger scale, like say that manufacturer that has to shut down operation for several hours at a time. All of those things add up. And for us, those outages have been cut by more than half, which our CEO at the time, Harold DePriest, used to say that if we were just building the fiber optic network for the smart grid, the benefits would be worth it just for the smart grid alone. And I think that these numbers do speak for themselves there. The economy has really benefited from the smart grid. We've heard from community leaders that being called Gig City helped locals just rethink about how they thought about themselves, how they thought about Chattanooga. In the time that we launched fiber optics, we've had 9,516 new jobs. And this independent study attributed about 40% of all the new jobs to the fact that we have a gigabit network in Chattanooga. You may recognize some of these names. Some companies are global entities like VW, and some were startups like Bellhop that have made a national and perhaps even international name for themselves of disrupting the moving industry. So really, these new jobs have run the gamut in terms of what sector of the economy they represent. And this is a really interesting project that is part of a larger $110 million that has been acquired by organizations in Chattanooga for smart city research. This is a mile-long traffic lab that comes from the University of Tennessee. It's an AV test corridor, and they have sensors on the street that essentially measure traffic and do so with the objective to reduce traffic fatalities and other accidents. And so this is really interesting research that's enabled by the fiber optic network. This is an example of how it works. So there's definitely plenty out there in the local media and national media about this particular project if you're interested. And speaking of media, the Gig City initiative has yielded some pretty fantastic PR results. EPB has worked with some fantastic partners, including the Chattanooga Chamber of Commerce and others, and essentially a team of PR professionals in our community have reached 5 billion people with national and international earned media. There have been over 2,500 PR stories in major outlets, and that's consistent community promotion for us. And of course, that just supports the attraction to Chattanooga, both tourism and in talent attraction and job development. There's some fun quotes here from headlines that have reached a national audience and international audience. How Chattanooga beat Google Fiber by half a decade. The fastest net service in the United States coming to Chattanooga. It was pretty fantastic to read those at the time, and the surprise in many of these outlets that a little town like Chattanooga could yield these sort of benefits from fiber, and they still continue today. A recent headline that was making the rounds in light of COVID was that Chattanooga was voted the best metro for remote workers. This has been found on Zillow, Forbes, Wired, PC Magazine. And so when COVID, of course, created the big remote work revolution, Chattanooga came up on many folks' radar because of how beautiful it is. And if you can live anywhere and also have wonderful connectivity, then Chattanooga is a very attractive place. Some additional community benefits that I'll cover very quickly is that EPB pays local governments around $20 million a year in pilot for local schools and public services. That is really enabled not only by our electric service, but by our fiber optics communication service. We've been able to decrease emissions by 7,900 tons through demand management on the grid, as well as the reduced truck miles. The smart grid allows us to operate our grid remotely in many cases. So there's no longer that need to roll a truck and investigate what's happening. And with fewer outages, there are even fewer reasons for trucks to go out and about. And then the more efficient operation and the fiber revenues have saved all of our customers money. We haven't had to have an electric rate increase since 2015, and we've never, ever had to raise rates on our internet service. We've been able to increase the speed, but never had to ask our customers to pay more, which we think is really core to that public service mission. And so I hope that those slides gave you just a brief overview of the value of the smart grid and really how that value is surprising, because it's not just in the electrical benefits. It's not just in the efficiencies that we experience, but also the quality of life that we're able to provide, the benefits we're able to provide to our customers. And I think that, 10 years ago, it would have been difficult to see all of these benefits. So thank you all for being our customers and community members and helping make it possible. So very quickly, who has heard of peer certification? Anyone? Michael? Who has heard of LEED certification? All right, that's just about everybody. So peer is a sister certification to LEED. It was created by the GBCI, which, as many of you know, is a sister organization to the US GBC. It stands for Performance Excellence in Electricity Renewal. And so what does that mean? It is the first certification for the resiliency and sustainability of an electric grid. So think of it as like LEED is for buildings and peer is for electric grids. And so I think the USGBC realized that there was perhaps the whole missing sector, when you're talking about decreasing carbon and preparing for that green energy future that we all want. The grid is incredibly important. It's the foundation for all the technologies that we want to see, that solar, that storage, that flexible energy efficiency. All those things require a smart grid. And so peer came about so that utilities can measure where they are on, say, the journey to a sustainable, resilient grid, and then also not only measure their own progress, but compare it to others as well. So we at EPB started peer, I believe in 2015, and we were peer certified. And then recently we recertified gold, which, as you guys know, in LEED world, gold means you're moving up. So that's great. We like to think that we're never done. We want to continue improving. And so with this last round of peer, the GBCI told us that we were the most reliable and resilient peer certified grid in the United States. And so again, that's a really wonderful accolade. And in practical terms, what does it mean? So for our customers, what it means is, for example, Volkswagen is working on a new battery lab, and we are currently working with them on demand response initiatives, which means, they can decrease their power consumptions at certain times when the grid is experiencing a lot of activity, a lot of load. And so that works well for them. That will save them money on their electric bills while also helping the efficiency of the grid. And peer is a measurement of that success. And also there are synergies, which is a LEED word for those of you who are in that space. They love to use that word when talking about different certification types. And it turns out that there are up to 20 points available that are enabled by peer. So if you are working on a new construction LEED building in our service territory, then there are some unique opportunities related to renewable energy and demand response that we'd love to talk to you about. And another thing that's unique about our peer certification is that often peer is usually, it would seem like isolated to smaller grids, like say a college campus or a hospital campus or a microgrid. But our boundary, our certification boundary, is actually all 600 square miles of our service territory. So there's lots of opportunity to take advantage of this. And one thing that is fun is that if you are working on a LEED building in our service territory, you can earn 1 free point. Contact me after this luncheon, and we can provide you with the letterhead necessary to take advantage of that. So please keep that in mind. I know there are architects, green building professionals in the room, and we'd love to help you with that. So again, this has all been a little technical. We've talked about some big numbers, but what does peer really mean for our community? It means resilience. I think everyone here has experienced extreme weather here. I think we all know that our environment is changing and that we are experiencing more opportunities for outages and damage to our community. And this grid is resilient. And that means that we are more prepared for this new future than other electricity providers in the nation. We're never done. We're going to keep trying to improve, but resilience is becoming increasingly important. But even maybe more important than that is that peer gives us the permission to dream bigger when it comes to our green energy future. We know that we have the foundation to support all of the technologies that we hope will be powering our world in the decades to come. So things like distributed solar, so that you can power your home with a variety of electricity options. There's a future where there's solar all over our grid that's matched with storage. But in order for those things to work, the grid has to be flexible. It has to be able to intelligently choose which options to use at different times. And the smart grid does enable that. And then of course, we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about electric vehicles. I'm not necessarily a big sports person, but I understand that all of the commercials that were related to vehicles this year were all EVs. During the Super Bowl, what did I say? Oh, all commercials. Oh my gosh. Thanks someone for correcting me on that. It's like dropping words. Everyone's like, all commercials now anyway. But during the Super Bowl, which as a cultural touchstone in the United States of America, I think is significant. And so that EV future is coming, and EPB's grid is ready. It's certainly more ready than most throughout the United States. One thing that we have been tracking very closely is a variety of industry analysts and what they're thinking. We have our own group within EPB called Strategic Research. They're watching this very closely. By 2030, EV sales are predicted to make up 30% of all new US car sales. And by 2040, that's expected to be 70% of all new US car sales. In addition, you guys may have missed this, but 5 major car manufacturing brands have pledged to discontinue all gas and diesel models by 2040. And 30 nations have also come on to say that they will ban any traditional combustion engine vehicles by 2040. So these are very serious, I guess flags in the sand, if you will, markers of progress that are to come. So while it may seem like it's been a slow start, we're really starting to see some pressure building to make sure that we're ready for this. So we at EPB have been thinking through, we've started in the commercial sector. The first option that I have to discuss today is that we're now going to be giving new credits for EV charging infrastructure. So for example, if you are familiar with make-ready cost in construction, you now have the ability to get up to $500 back per residential unit that is outfitted for electric vehicles. And back, excuse me, is the wrong word, an avoided cost with this growth credit. We are also launching the EV commercial incentive. This is for folks who say the construction is complete. Now you want to install electric vehicle chargers. This is for any commercial customer who would like to do this, that wants to make the chargers publicly available. And that can be to either employees or to the general public. And so for a level 2 charger, that has a open ADR networking capability, which simply means that it's an open network and could be controlled in the future, perhaps storage or some other reason. That level 2 charger, you could get up to $2,000 back per port, which can be significant. And then for a level 2 charger without communication capability, you could get up to $500 per port. We are also launching a new commercial rate that went live last month. This rate is 20 cents per kWh with no demand charge. Just something to keep in mind. There's other qualifying criteria. So if you think that this could be a good rate for you or your company, you would need to discuss with our key account folks. But again, that is one of our first rates that really pertain to electric vehicles. Again, we just like to thank you guys as our customers. JD Power named us the best mid-sized utility in the South. Our CEO, David Wade, says that this is his favorite accolade that we earned because it's from our customers. It means our customers have voted this. And again, so thanks to all of you who believe in us and give us the privilege of serving you. And so with that, I am happy to take any questions, depending on what time it is.
Yeah, thank you. First of all. Olin?
The charging stations around town seem to be going through some kind of transition. Ones downtown as such and then a charge from the moment you plug it in forward. Others are after 2 hours discharged. And others are still totally free.
Mm-hmm.
So what is the long-range plan in terms of all that?
For the people on Zoom, the question is about the electric charging rates at different stations around town, because there's different rate structures at different stations.
Yeah, that's a great question. So we at EPB actually do not set rates for electric vehicle chargers. And really my understanding is that it's up to the person or the entity that owns the EV charger, and they can charge what they would like to for the folks charging.
That's correct.
So
Well, all of these that I'm talking about are the ones that are the triple sponsored EPB.
Oh, those are
TDA.
CARTAs. Yeah. Those are CARTAs.
Yeah, CARTA.
Yeah.
But now Carter is pulling back from being the one overseeing it.
Mhm.
My conversation I had about, I don't know, last week with the Carter people about. So what, who is now in charge of that? Is it still Carter?
It is still CARTA. For those stations, CARTA is setting those rates.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now Carter is saying they're not anymore.
Well-
That was my conversation last week.
With who?
That
Who's
they
at
were no
CARTA?
longer, that the person in charge from Carter was no longer, didn't have his office there anymore. He was in another place and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Well,
It was
Yeah.
really a strange
We
conversation.
can follow up afterward and talk more about it.
Yeah.
yeah, and I'm happy to follow up on that. And, you know, again, I'm sure you use this, but I think the apps are really helpful because they at least like can show you generally what the fees may be and help you choose accordingly. But yeah, definitely I can find out more and follow up with you as well as Michael.
Elizabeth, do you want to share about our new EV chargers in our EV garage?
I do, which is a good segue to some free charging. So we offer free charging now in our garage. We have some level 2 chargers. They're right there on the first floor. You can't miss them. And I believe there are 12. Yes, there are 12 to choose from. And we would love to have you come visit our garage. The parking rates are really affordable. And yeah, it's a great place to charge your vehicle. Yes.
It's hard to remember what year it was because the past 2 years felt like a decade. At some point in the recent past, Jim Ingraham did an exceptional presentation sort of on the future of the grid and sort of blockchain finance and decentralization. And I think your slide showing the battery, you know, the water tower battery and, you know, sort of the multi points feeding into that sort of, you know, maybe are a good way of summarizing what that sort of movement would be. And I think part of what he was saying in it was that there are some folks that are thinking that we have sort of reached peak demand, that as efficiencies in buildings and refrigeration systems and lighting and on down the line, that we were sort of moving be over the hump of the peak electrical load demand on the existing grid infrastructure. I guess my question is, with the proliferation of electric vehicles becoming the predominant, you know, instead of gas, we're moving towards electric, does that augment what were the demand predictions that we were sort of talking about back then? And if so, I mean, what does the power grid, does it change any of the grid infrastructure moving forward if everybody out there is charging, you know, at home and over here and over there? If there's all this electric charge that's being used for vehicles, does the grid sustain it long term, or what happens?
Can you try to summarize that? For those
Sure.
Zoom-
So
listening on Zoom?
I think the question is that our participant heard a presentation in which Vice President Jim Ingram of Strategic Research reported that peak demand on the electric grid has likely been reached, meaning that we probably aren't going to see much more demand for electricity in the future due to the efficiencies of everything from homes to appliances. But he was asking, with the proliferation of electric vehicles, are we going to see that trend reverse? And if so, how is EPB prepared to handle that load? And that is an excellent question. And I think that every utility in the United States is trying to figure out what their role is and exactly how they're going to manage it. So with the smart grid, I think one way that we are a step ahead is that we have the ability to unleash the analytics to really monitor all of that usage. We are doing load forecast, and I don't know off the top of my head exactly how that is going to augment the decrease that we see. But I think what's really important and what you hit the nail on the head on is when people charge. That's going to be incredibly important. And I think, we at EPB will have to watch those trends and help develop incentives that make sure that the grid is healthy and able to respond and stay reliable. I hope that answers your question. Yeah, but we do know that right now around 80% of charging takes place at work or home. And so the behavior there is certainly getting established. Yeah.
Elizabeth, aren't we doing a core network upgrade too? That's starting
That is true. Yes.
to prepare for all of that.
That is true. Some of our internal team and technical operations is working on upgrading our network. Yes, as we speak, and try to prepare for that future. Yep.
We have a few online questions.
Okay, great.
Sorry. Doug asks, EV is the greatest on a grid completely carbon free. Can you speak to when EPB will get there?
Oh, that's a great question. So first, right now, as we speak, the electric grid or the power that TVA distributes to us is 60% carbon free, which is substantially better than the national average. And as you know, we distribute pretty much very close to 100% of TVA's power, and they aspire to have net zero emissions by 2070. So that is their aspiration. And you can certainly find out more about their plans there. And we at EPB, are planning to offer our customers as many options as we are able, so that they have choice when it comes to their electric power sources. So we have renewable energy credits available, we have solar share available, and we certainly are looking to the future to see what else we can do to make sure that folks have as much individual options as they can. Any more questions?
Hey, listen,
Yeah.
I mean, Chattanooga got such a huge jump on the nation, quite frankly,
Mm-hmm.
on all of this. Is the rest, I'm just curious, is the rest of all the other public utilities, are they catching up with us? Are we way out in front of them still, or no, we're now kind of in the middle of the pack or something?
It's a great question. I think that a lot of utilities are out there doing really interesting things, even if they don't have a fiber optic network. I think here in the Tennessee Valley, you're seeing more activity like this. We're not alone in offering fiber optic services. I think, we're really in a privileged position being a public utility because we can think through what benefits the community the most. We don't have a group of shareholders making sure we maximize profits, or, not to demonize investor-owned utilities. That is not what I mean at all, but it is harder for them to justify these kinds of upgrades. One utility that I think is doing amazing work without a smart grid infrastructure is the Sacramento Municipal Utility District. In Sacramento, California. They are also a public entity. They generate and distribute power, so they're kind of full service there. And they're just doing really, really cool stuff. So we're always looking at what other utilities are doing. I'd say when it comes to the technical operations, we do sometimes, find ourselves looking around like, does anyone have something to offer? But there are great programs that we're learning from as well. So I hope that answers your question.
Elizabeth, do you think we are a model for the nation though, especially in being proactive as opposed to reactive on a lot of these things?
Yeah, I would agree. I would definitely say that is what industry analysts and the folks who write white papers, they would certainly say that is true.
Can you say that
Yep.
for the Zoom?
Yes.
What Scotty said.
Oh, what Scotty said. Oh, yes. The question, Scotty, can you repeat it?
Do you feel like the EPB, that we are a model for the nation when it comes to being proactive about the issues you've been talking about today as opposed to reactive?
Yeah. Scotty asked if we felt like EPB was proactive when it comes to the issues that we're discussing today and not reactive. And I would say yes, we definitely are. I know internally we certainly are. And then, externally, the feedback that we're getting is that that's the case through journalists, white paper, industry magazines. Typically cite EPB as being, if not the leader, then a leader in all these spaces. Mm-hmm.
I've got a question.
Yeah.
Okay, so people can hear it on Zoom. So, one of the things that we've worked on together with EPB is this issue of energy efficiency in low income residential, because it is a really big burden for the families that don't really have a lot of control in their housing choices. So what are some of the things that you see in the future with the smart grid that you think might be able to help address some of those issues? And what are the things that EPB is doing today already to help address some of those issues?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, today we are offering services like, we have our Energy Pros service, in which we will provide consultations about any topic related to energy, 30 minutes over the phone, if that works for you. We'll come out to your home virtually or in person. And you can do that as a renter without permission from your landlord. Which is a little different from how a lot of utilities do it. So I think that does empower the renter to take some more control. We also have our home uplift program that is now also available to renters that'll invest up to $10 a square foot in qualifying homes, with the goal of reducing energy consumption by 20%. Our EPB app will also allow you to set a billing threshold, which is great. I personally use it. So you can decide what you would like for your energy bill to be each month. And when you get close, EPB will set you or give you an alarm and let you monitor that. We also have billing options like levelized, which allow you to pay the same amount every month. In the future, I think there's just so many opportunities to leverage the analytics of the smart grid. I mean, we're getting information from each individual meter every 15 minutes. And so there's a lot of insight that can be empowering to customers, especially if it's given in a more simplified way. And I think that there just is a lot of opportunity to think through business models that work for that community, through great community partners like Michael, like the City of Chattanooga, the United Way. I think there's a lot more work to do. And I'm so hopeful personally in the more immediate future that there'll be some funding coming down from the federal government that we can take advantage of that really helps this community. Yeah.
Elizabeth, can you talk about our partnership with ORNL when it comes to the auto bin,
The digital
twin of the buildings and the energy consumption, and isn't that tied in with TEA and home uplift?
Yeah, there's certainly opportunity for that. So what Scotty is referring to is a program that we have with ORNL that, as Michael said, created a digital twin of every premise in our service territory. And essentially virtually, you can see the energy efficiency of each premise and where perhaps there are leaks or there's opportunity for improvement. And then it will automatically generate a list of what they think the most impactful improvements to the building would be. So it's pretty impressive. It's still in the research phase. It's in our strategic research group, but it is really exciting technology. And it would be, to Scotty's point, wonderful to use, especially in limited income communities, to really narrow in on what the most beneficial improvements would be.
Elizabeth, one of our participants online mentioned the EPB time of use billing program, and wanted to know if you could comment on it.
Yeah, I think I would be happy to. Was there any other specific question or just?
They said they use it for their lower cost to charge their electric vehicle at night.
Okay, great. Well, yeah, it's a wonderful option. I think that, in the future, we definitely want to offer a variety of rates that that help folks live the lifestyle they want to, whether it's EVs or something else. And so, it may not be for everybody, but again, I'm glad that they noticed the option there.
Can you just mention super briefly what time of use rates are?
Oh, sure. So time of use means that you are charged different amounts during different parts of the day and night for electricity, depending on the demand on the grid. So, for example, when demand is low, you may be paying a lower rate, and when demand is high, you could be paying a much higher rate. And in the past, it actually coincides with the more environmentally beneficial to some degree, because peakers, are often fossil fuel enabled. And so it's beneficial to the environment as well to attempt to avoid the peak.
Is EPB planning on utilizing batteries of electric vehicles connected to the grid as a power source if needed?
Oh, that's very cool. There are no current plans to do that, but that is certainly something that we are exploring. You know, and we're watching this industry grow. And I think that's a very exciting possibility, and I'd love to explore it further. But there are no immediate plans.
Other questions?
I don't have a question, I just had a shout out for EPB that other utilities that have tried to model EPB's program have stated that the customer service that EPB provides to their customers was more relevant than the model that was being put forward. That EPB's customer service was over and beyond, and that allowed their customers, simple as how to restart a modem. That EPB took that extra step, and that's what those utilities had to learn from EPB to make their program work.
Yeah, well, thank you for that feedback. Really appreciate that.
All right. Well, thank you, Elizabeth, so much for the presentation. Thanks everybody for joining us, and have a great month. And we hope to see you. Green Drinks, I should say, will be at Flora de Mel in Rossville on the 30th. And then we've got Remember Eco Field Day on the 22nd and the Green Prix on May 6th and 7th. And our next topic, our next Lunch and Learn will be about the Green Prix. And so we'll have a panel of participants to tell everybody about their experience.
We also have an event at Naked River on April 9th.
Oh, yes. Yes, April 9th. At Naked River, they're going to be making beer out of bread from Need Loves that was stale and was going to be thrown away. So it was a food waste reduction example of how you can make beneficial use out of things that would otherwise be destined for landfill.
Very sustainable reason to have cocktails.
That's right. Thanks, everybody.
April 7th. When is this?